Hello everyone and welcome to one more video. Today's video is not strictly related to Islamic practices or knowledge regarding Islam. It is more about the Muslims, contemporary Muslims today, and how our faith, our understandings about Islam and our knowledge is and reactions, how all these elements are being shaped and by whom. Now I will use primarily a case study. It's a case from Pakistan. So Pakistan is, I hope that Pakistani audience will pay attention, but what I will describe and what I will talk about is not limited to Pakistan. Goes beyond and above Pakistan in Muslim majority countries. So the whole topic, I don't know what title I will give to this title, but the whole topic is how knowledge production takes place and how do you learn about your religion if you live in a Muslim majority country. The case study that I want to talk about, it's an incident that happened to me on the 22nd of July 2023. I was contacted by someone through social media, and I will read parts of the screenshots because I kept the screenshots. I have put them on my Facebook account. Those of you that you follow me on Facebook, you know that I do that often. I share screenshots of conversations. So I will read the main cases, the main parts of the conversation. So the guy, I will not tell you the name of the person or the name of the organization. That is not what I want to do. I don't want to name and shame, but I want you to see how knowledge is being produced and how the priorities of Muslims are being established. So I start reading a quote. Hello, we plan to organize a Zoom meeting and invite other scholars as well and talk about any emerging issues concerning the Muslim world. Around 2 years ago, we held a lecture on Islamophobia in the West. We shall be grateful if you also join as one of the guest speakers. So this is the proposal, okay? Points I want you to pay attention at. This comes from Pakistan. So it had been clarified that 2 years ago we talked about Islamophobia in the West. One thing that many lay Pakistanis might not know is that if you work for the government in Pakistan and you want any position in civil service and you want to have a promotion, a better salary, you are expected to produce an essay. And this essay is always and exclusively about Islamophobia in the West. I had several gentlemen, I don't know, it's just men, I don't know if women don't work in the civil service or if they don't apply for upgrade, but I had several of them contacting me and asking me to help them write the essay. And the content of the essay is laughable. What they write was the case maybe 50 years ago in the West, but not anymore. But that's what they're supposed to write. And when I tell them, when I help them with their essays, that that's not the truth. We have research, modern research, contemporary research that invalidates this information. Their answer is always, but that's what I need to write if I want to get the promotion. So here you see how people are being shaped indirectly. If you want to be good in your government position and you want to go higher in the hierarchy and get more money, have a more comfortable life, you must abide to the narration that the West is bad and hates Muslims. Well, is this true today? Could be true 20 years ago, but is it true today? It's a big question. So here we see that this organization 2 years ago had the same, topic. And then they asked me to participate. So far, so good. We will talk about this invitation later. My response is, thank you for the invite. I would be delighted to participate. May I know the date, time, and any indication of the topics? The answer, anything you believe needs to be talked. what do you think can be a contemporary topic to speak on, but should be related to the issues related to the Muslim world? What he means is Muslim majority countries. So far, so good. But keep that in mind, okay? To the Muslim world, Muslim majority countries. My response. I have a very good topic related to suppression of diverse opinions. Do you think it would fit? His response. Could you further elaborate in a line or two, please? Do you mean suppression of diverse opinion by Islamic clerics? My response. Institutions and governments. A chapter of my PhD showcases such incidents, particularly in Egypt, Pakistan, and Iran. People who have been imprisoned or killed or threatened to be killed. His response. Actually, we might have noticed that in India there is a rise of Hindu nationalism with a systematic transformation of country into Hindutva-inspired nation. Indian Muslims are bearing the brunt of it. I will make a small stop here. Earlier, he told me that he wants me to have a topic related to the Muslim nations, to the Muslim majority countries. India is not a Muslim majority country. And he continues, I agree with your thesis that definitely there are issues in Egypt, Iran, and Pakistan, but between us, we might not be able to hold a webinar on it here, particularly when we work for a government institution. My response, how disappointing. His response, I agree. Can't you speak on India and tactily say words about your thesis, but with a major focus remaining on India? And why, my response, and why the focus is specifically on the oppression of Muslims by Hindus, but cannot accommodate oppression of Muslims by their own religious institutions and governments? His response, because new government of India openly declares that Muslims should either convert to Hinduism or leave India, but Indian government is taking things to an extreme level. I didn't ask about India. I was not asking clarifications about India. He tries to convince me that this is the most burning issue right now in the Muslim world. That's not what I asked. My response. And religious institutions and governments of Muslim majority countries kill their own citizens if they dare express a religious opinion that deviates from the official line since 1920. Why is this not important to be talked about? It definitely is, his response. It definitely is, I agree. But we are India focused. My response, I don't disagree. What I suggest is that both types of genocide are being talked about. And that's where the conversation ends. He never responded. He didn't even have the dignity to say, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, we cannot accommodate it. Thank you very much for your time. Bye. No. It was like, now let me give you a few thoughts that maybe you want to contemplate on. In Pakistan, the last years, I have received countless invitations for webinars, for conferences, because everything happens online and it's practical. If you pay attention, every conference has some Westerner scholars in it. Especially since we started putting pressure on women being in discussions, being in panels. And here is the first, question, like if you produce, if you force your own employees to talk about how the West is bad and hates Muslims, and you also hold webinars every once in a while from organizations like this one, why do you need the Western scholars to come and talk? They need us because that's how they build credibility. That's how the universities or the organizations show international impact, and they get more funding. Okay, this is something that most of you don't know. So they want us, they need us. The question is, this gentleman here, he approached me, he proposed, he saw that I'm not buying your narration. I have my own topic that I think it's more important. He insisted that I should talk about India. I'm not an expert on India. I'm not an expert on international relations. My expertise lays elsewhere. I could, if I wanted to fill my CV with conferences and, public engagement. That's how we call it in academia. Because when we apply in academia, when we apply for universities, we need to showcase the conferences, the impact of our research, and also a public engagement. So if I cared about filling pages and pages of my CV, I could easily say, yeah, of course I will write about India. And then what I could do is I could Google 3 articles and then put some juicy words like genocide, oppression, and then presented it. But would my research be valuable? Would it be honest? Would it be meaningful? It wouldn't. We see that he didn't care about the quality of the research. He didn't care about the truth. He didn't care what I would write for as long as I would say that the Indian government is horrible and commits a genocide. And also the disrespect at the end, not even a thank you for your time. It was like, you don't play our game, we disregard you. Whereas a minute ago, oh, you were a valuable scholar and we needed you. Which again shows the hypocrisy. Now, why do I say that? Because of my personal grievances? Of course not. If I wanted, I would be there. I would have my participation. But I don't. I don't care about that. I'm very passionate about the topics I talk. And I know how to shut my mouth when I'm not an expert. I don't have the necessary knowledge. But the reason I say that to you, and I wish to reach to the lay Pakistanis, and not only Pakistanis, because now I talk, okay, you know what? No, let's talk about another country as well, because it's not about the country. I mean, Pakistan is very prominent in that. It has happened to me 2 or 3 times that I'm being invited, and when I don't play the game, they either disregard me like that, or in one case, they put my slot into the namaz time, the time of the prayer. So nobody was in the room. I was talking by myself, which was also disrespectful. But for their side, they could show to their managers that, look, we have international impact, we have international scholars. But I learn, as I grow, I learn about how the systems work. Now, other cases. Another case that happened to me 3 years ago was with someone from Egypt. Now, Egypt is for those of us that we know and we deal with oppression of Muslims by their regimes, and I mean the religious institutions. I don't mean the governments. I don't mean politically. Egypt is a notorious case. People can't speak their mind. So what had happened to me is that a few years ago I had a student. He was doing his master's in Islamic law. That he was here in London, and when we were discussing about the government and the religion, the narrations, the religious narrations in Egypt, he was very open-minded. He could see the truth, he could see the oppression, he could see everything. And then as time passed, he asked me that we write together a paper. This is something that young students do often when someone has publications already. They want to build credibility. They want to publish easily. So it happens a lot. But when we sat down, I agreed. At that point, I agreed, which I never did again. After that, I swore that I will never co-publish. So when we sat together to have a structure of what we will write, and sensitive elements were being touched, the topic was about fatwa. He backed off. The idea was that, I cannot write that because I'm afraid of my life when I will go back to my country, and if not my life, it will be the life of my family, which I understand. I totally understand. 3 years down the road, this person is an employee of the government, of the Egyptian government. He forgot all his beliefs and understandings and serves the system. And he silenced himself. He's not in academia anymore. He had brilliant ideas, but these ideas will die with him. And that is the case with many, many people in Egypt. And there is a reason why that is the case. I'm not accusing this student, this person. He did his best. Another thing. No, before we go to another thing. So this is these two examples. They show you how the governments and the institutions control the knowledge that you, simple people, are being exposed to. let's go back to the example of Pakistan. Pakistan is unfortunately very often in the news here in the West for mob killing people in the name of Islam. I don't know of another country that the mob kills people that often. In Egypt is the government. They go to prison, they're being executed. A country where the people, the mob, the lay people, the regular Ahmad and Ali and whomever, they wake up one morning and they go out and they kill people. It's only in Pakistan, or at least that's what reaches to us. And if you connect the incident that I described to you with the mob actions, you understand why that happens. So let me, I don't live in Pakistan, I cannot, because I don't speak Urdu, I can't follow the news, but I bet, and those of you that you live in Pakistan, please let me know, I bet that this time, and now that I'm recording this video is end of July, your TV sets are filled with, politicians, Pakistani politicians swearing against the Indian government and telling you how your brothers in India are oppressed and how your brothers are being killed. They're not being killed. They're not being killed. There is this video of the Prime Minister of India, I think he's the Prime Minister, where in an interview he said that, Indians don't belong here. Now, his understanding, if you know history, his understanding or his argument is that, you know what, Muslim Indians in the previous century decided to break India, technically, and take a part of India and make it their own state where Sharia would rule, because they didn't want to live in a country where Muslims and Hindus will coexist. So it was Muslims that didn't want to coexist with Hindus and created their own state, which is Pakistan, which later on fragmented further into Pakistan and Bangladesh, but this is another story. So the understanding of the Hindus is that, okay, you didn't want to coexist with us, so you created your own state, but now you are again among us. Go to the state that your own people made for you. This is the idea. Is it correct or wrong? I'm not here to judge this. I'm not going down that path. Actually, I will go down that path. No, it's wrong. It's not correct. You can't uproot someone or tell them that they need to get uprooted because of the religion. But Indian politicians are politicians. Politicians will do the best for the people that they vote them and they put them in this office, because politicians care about money. This idea that politicians are charity workers and politics are humanitarian activities, forget about that. Politics is cruel and politicians are cruel. They're supposed to be cruel. I will give you an example with my country. I'm from Greece. So in Greece, 10 years ago, with a financial crisis, for the last 10 years, the Greek main people and the Greek media were showing that the evil in this case was Angela Merkel, the Prime Minister, Kangelarios, of Germany, because Germany is the bad guy. Nobody was talking about how our governments were taking loans all these years. Nobody was talking about how simple people, unemployed people were taking credit cards for years and years. It was not our problem, it was the bad politician from Germany. So the same thing happens now in Pakistan. The government wants you to forget about your own problems, forget about your unemployment, forget about your poverty, forget about your lack of education, and show you that, this is where you should be angry at. Pakistanis are not happy. I showcase this in my Facebook account. I have dozens of Pakistani men that they just approach me in Facebook. They don't know me and they send me messages. Oh, I love you. I want to marry you. I will send you my passport. I want to marry you and come to England. Everyone wants to flee. My country, Greece, that we have a huge wave of refugees. Half of the refugees are Pakistanis, and the Greek government is in difficult position because Pakistan is not in a war. We cannot give refugee status to Pakistanis, so the government doesn't understand why Pakistanis are calling state, or are claiming to be refugees. But half of the people are Pakistanis. Pakistanis flee as much as they can. Why? Because of harsh conditions because of poverty. Half of them they're fleeing, and the other half they live based on money that the expatriate Pakistanis sent to Pakistan. Now, normally these people, especially the young people, should be angry and should protest against, governmental decisions and poverty and stuff like that, but they don't. And how the government makes sure that you will not talk against the government? By giving you something else to talk about. The main narration, the main basis is religion. Could it be to create issues between Muslims and Christians in Pakistan? It will happen. Now it's the idea that, India suppresses our brothers, and so the youth of Pakistan, and not only the youth, all these people that they feel unhappy with their life, now they found another reason to be angry and to express their anger, and they will go in the streets and they will shout and they will swear, and then they will go and will sleep, and nothing will change for Indians, for Muslims in India, for Indian Muslims. Nothing will change. Do you believe that by shouting in the streets or by posting Facebook posts about the bad Indian government, the case of Indian Muslims will change? I don't think so. If this was the case, if the lay people had the power to change politics, the Palestinian issue would have been solved for decades now. But it hasn't, because that's what it works. That's how it works. It's not about helping your Indian Muslim brothers. Pakistan doesn't care about that. Pakistani government doesn't care about that. Pakistani government and their associates, their organizations, their education cares about you having something to cry about, so that you will not cry to the actual issues. You will not shout about poverty. You will not shout about unemployment. You will shout about some other government in some other state. And the same goes in Egypt and in other countries, not only Pakistan. It's just that, again, I'm talking about Pakistan because this is a real life example. It happened to me, and that shows many things. And why do I say that to you? You need to be more cool, more rational when your sentiments are being evoked, when the media makes your blood burn about something. Calm down. And you need to question, what religious knowledge do you receive? And by whom? What is the incentive behind the government, the universities that work for the government, the organizations that belong to the government, that tell you about your religion and about those that they are against the Muslims and Islamophobia, and every sense of criticism, every sense of constructive criticism against Muslims or bad practices of Muslims is being considered blasphemy, and the mob goes into the streets. You had, and I'm talking now to the Pakistanis, Fazlur Rahman, an amazing scholar, Pakistani scholar. What happened to him? Go and search. And why did that happen to him? Because he talked about Islam in a way that deviated from the government's way. See what happened to him. Abu Nasr in Egypt. Great case. What happened to him? And why? Because he dared to say about Islam things that Al-Azhar didn't like. Not only they took away his job, not only they issued a divorce for him without him or his wife asking it, not only they threatened him with death. Think about that. Think about the knowledge that you receive. And when you come in contact, because inevitably you are coming in contact with people that they live in free-thinking countries, and we can speak our truth. You demonstrate such a fanatical approach, and you are black or white. You cannot see grey. And that is bad. That is bad because it's very easy for you to be blocked from social media. And you remain in your own, let's say glass ball. So yeah, think carefully about how the knowledge and academic knowledge in this case and the news, the information from the news is being shaped, and by whom and why. And perhaps you want to pay attention to your actual problems. Because, yeah, okay, politics in India, it's bad. What happens in India is bad. But to the best of my knowledge, I might be wrong, but to the best of my knowledge until now, until July 2023, there has been no genocide of Indian Muslims. Yes, uncomfortable feelings because, come on, the government say things that shouldn't, but no genocide. Why Pakistan wants to do it, number one, and why Pakistan invites people that they are not experts, like myself, on the topic to talk about this topic. If we are not experts, we are not in politics, start talking about politics, what is our credibility? And what is the credibility of the knowledge you receive? For you, you would see if I had chosen to participate in this webinar, you would have seen a Western name, a hijabi woman lecturer in the West. Ooh, she knows. We don't know everything. We know our expertise. This is not my expertise. And the same happens with academic publications in the West, but perhaps I will talk about that in the future. How academic publications in the West are being heavily opposed if they say something against institutions of Muslim majority countries. And someone would be surprised if I say that because, oh, you're in the West, so you should be free. In my second article that I published, it was published this year. I wrote it in 2020, and I was trying to publish it for 2 years. And because it includes, technically, I talk about how Al-Azhar and Dubai, they control the fatwas and they try to manipulate the fatwas and promote their own understanding of fatwas through AI. 5 different journals here in the West rejected my paper, not on grounds of academic credibility, but because I was talking about big institutions of Sunni Islam. And how this happened is that nowadays all the big journals in the West that deal with Islamic topics, they have editors that they're Muslims, editors that they have studied in Al-Azhar University, and then they got some scholarship and they went to the West and they built a career because non-Muslims are not experts. But those Muslims that in some cases are Pakistani Muslims, in some cases are Egyptian Muslims, they censor heavily what goes out and what doesn't. Now, me being me, I didn't give up. I could have given up, but I didn't. 2 years later, I found a journal in a Shia majority country that accepted my manuscript. It has been published. It has been published for 1.5 months now. And I can tell you that the number of citations and the number of requests I have about this paper exceeds my first publication that was published in 2020. So one publication is out for 3 years, the other one is out for less than 2 months, and the second one attracts attention more than the first, which means there is a point there. It's a good paper, but Muslims that are employed as editors in journals here in the West would not permit this material to go out. So control of knowledge, control of ideology, control of religious knowledge. Think about these topics the next time you open your TV and you watch something, or the next time you see some passionate politicians of your country talking about Muslim brothers and sisters. The next time that you want to go into the civil service because it's a good position and good money, and you have to, say that, oh, Muslims are being oppressed all over, we are the victims. And yes, Muslims are being victimized but the question is by whom? Anyway, I think that's a long video. Thank you for watching. Please start thinking independently and critically, and make a small research to see who is behind the knowledge, who produced the knowledge and why. That's all for now from me. Bye.